Would you look at that, a video on the channel that isn't just a short teaser. And it's for a project completely unrelated to the other two teasers on the channel. Whether that's a sign of worry or hope is totally up to your interpretation at this point. Anyways, welcome back to the Time Gals 25 YouTube channel. This is episode 0 of my Let's Play series for the long-awaited Deltarune chapters 3 and 4. Our Let's Play is going to be a regular thing on this channel. And honestly, no idea. With this and the Alan Wake 2 Let's Play that I'm planning to do in the future, I really only want to do it for games where I feel like I have a lot to say about them. For any game that I pick, I want to do something where I'll have an episode 0 where I talk about my relation to the game picked, or its meaning to me, or anything like that. It's not as common now, but there was a time when LPs, usually the screenshot ones on forums, had an intro to go along with them. Mostly because the people playing them were people who had played these games before multiple times and wanted to share their experience with the games. Maybe just remember one really good Let's Play series from when I was young, and that's warped all my memories of a subject. Totally possible. Overly long intro aside, let's talk about the game that I'm going to be focusing on. Deltarune. I actually got into its predecessor, Undertale, soon after it first came out in 2015. I actually beat Omega Flowey on Thanksgiving night, so of course I was more than excited for what came next. When Survey Program dropped on Halloween in 2018, it was a rush. The day-long lead-up and all the cryptic tweets, the opening setup and disregard of the vessel, it was a magical experience. The wait and lead-up to the rest of the chapters dropping could feel a bit draining at times just because we were kind of given little, at least when it came to getting to chapter 2. And also that just kind of comes with any kind of wait for an episodic release. But when chapter 2 dropped, it was like no time had passed at all. Even just seeing the little adjustments and changes to the gameplay that had been made between chapters 1 and 2 showed me how Toby and his team were just knocking it out of the park. And the story to me felt stronger too. While chapter 1 was more of a setup to introduce us to this world and characters, chapter 2 gave us more of an idea of what the main focus was going to be and what our goals were. It also gave us Spamton, and I'll be forever thankful for that. Now, this might be a bit of a hot take. I don't even know what counts as those anymore these days. But I think Deltarune has the potential to be even better than Undertale. Now, don't get me wrong, I love Undertale. Love it to death. It has Papyrus. I can't not love it. It deserves all the acclaim and praise and influence it's had over the last 10 years. Jesus Christ, 10 years. And for a lot of people, it's going to be hard to top what they proudly call their favorite game ever, or even the best game ever made. But to me, it's like this. Toby Fox was learning how to make a game with Undertale and introducing us to the ideas he's interested in. Deltarune, on the other hand, is more showing the mastery of those ideas and how much he's grown. This is the game with the ending that's never left his mind, the ending that he had to make a game around after he saw it in a dream all the way back in 2012. And to me, I feel that passion is working on me. I want to see what that ending is made real. I want to see what all of this, all what we've seen in chapter 1 and chapter 2, and honestly, what's been set up even in Undertale, I want to see what that leads to. A lot of my thoughts on the game and how I think it's genius and what works about it and why I love it can actually be found more properly worded out in a mega playthrough thread I did on Blue Sky last month. I was actually in between if I wanted to do a Let's Play of chapters 1 and 2 or do a long playthrough thread, but I was stupid and did a thread. And when I realized, oh, I have this stuff to do a Let's Play, I was already a few tweets deep and didn't just want to restart my chapter 1 run, even though I was only in like the first 5 minutes of it. I'll probably do a big long run through of all the chapters again anyways when chapter 7's release is close. So when that happens, I'll be able to explain my thoughts on chapters 1 and 2 and 3, 4, 5, 6 and why I find them genius and the like then and there as well. So look forward to that in, I don't know, hopefully 2028 or something. Now, there are probably like a few of you out there that have clicked on this video and going, what's the story so far? What happened before these chapters? And to that I say, what are you doing here, man? The title says this is for chapters 3 and 4. You really want to jump into this game without even a little bit of knowledge on what happened before we got here? You want to drop $25 or watch a Let's Play of Chapters 3 and 4, go play Deltarune's Chapters 1 and 2, or watch someone else play it. They're free, you can beat both chapters in a single sitting each, or one long session of both if you really get into this game. I know the site says you can jump into any chapter whenever you want, but I promise you, jumping into a 7-part story at chapters 3 or 4, or beyond that, isn't a good strategy for you. Alright, fine, might as well explain how the hell we got here in the first place, but I gotta make it quick. We got other stuff we gotta get to. You ready? Okay. 3, 2, 1, let's go. Deltarune follows Chris, a non-binary human, and Susie, a purple monster girl, two teenagers who find themselves pulled into an alternate reality known as the Dark World when they get lost in their school supply closet. In it, they meet Rouse, a dark prince who tells them they are heroes of legend, come together to help seal Dark Fountain and keep the balance of the world in tow. The three make their way to the Dark Fountain, where Susie and Lane make friends along the way as they meet characters like Lancer and Rose Card. In front of the fountain, they face the corrupted King of Spades, learn about an unseen knight, stopping him and sealing the fountain. It is revealed that the Dark World's inhabitants are random items that exist in real world. At the end of Chapter 1, we learn that while we control Chris in-game, they are their own person who can remove our control over them at will. In Chapter 2, the group finds themselves in a new Dark World made in the library's computer room, and meet Queen, who's Chapter 2 of Chris and Susie's schoolmates, Noelle and Berkeley. She did this because she wanted to make a perfect world for Noelle, who's found it easy to use the internet to escape her trauma and fears in real life, mostly brought on by the disappearance of her older sister, Tess. And trying to make another Dark Fountain, Rouse informs them all of the Roaring, an event that would summon giant titans and plunge both worlds into total chaos. Chris and Susie agree to find himself the knight who's making all these Dark Fountains, and keep that from happening, while Noelle and Berkeley wind up taking the event where nothing will dream. At the end of Chapter 2, while Susie sleeps over at Chris's house, Chris plunges their knife into the middle of their living room and opens a new Dark Fountain, pulling them, Susie, and their mother Toriel in. Along the way in both chapters, our heroes have faced strange bosses who seem to have had their views of the world and reality itself corrupted and warped by a mysterious figure. Each boss defeated grants us a strange object simply known as Shadow Crystal, which has a purpose we're not yet sure of. Okay, there we go. That should be everything for the main story. There are a ton of things I missed, but honestly, most of you clicking on this know what came before. Hell, some of you might have replayed all of Deltarune beforehand to make sure you were all caught up. This is just mostly for, like, in case some rando clicks on this video, or, like, my mom wants to see what Deltarune is. If you're somehow watching this, hi, mama. For the stuff I missed, mostly a summation of things we learned in the Spamton Sweepstakes events. I'll link to a channel that talks about all those findings and lore we got from that down below. So, let's talk about something that is semi-new and interesting. Theories. Surprisingly, the episodic nature of these chapters means a lot of talk and theorizing that I've seen. It's mostly what the future chapters beyond 3 and 4 are going to look like, and how the story is going to end. It was kind of like this with Chapter 2 as well, but this was following right after Chapter 1, where we didn't know there were going to be 7 chapters, just like there were going to be a vague future chapters. And also when we thought, and Toby had initially planned, to get us the game all in one big package that you could play from start to end. And we all thought that somehow that'd be in like 2 years or something. At first, like a lot of others, I thought each game chapter was going to set us up with a new set of partners as we slowly explored, each new Dark World, got closer and closer to the festival, and maybe we'd find out who the knight was. We're probably going to get that in some form, but it's not going to be as exact as it was in Chapter 2, probably. And it'll probably only be with the Deltarune original classmates and not the ones that are Undertale transfers. So that means no Snowy, no Monster Teen, and no Temmie. As much as I would love Dark World Temmie. I think we can say, hopefully and safely, that at the very least Caddy is going to be a party member. She has talk sprites of her own, she has a connection with Chris and Susie, cares about Noelle, and also, I think they want to at least imply that she has some sort of crush on Noelle with the blog post that we saw in the last Spamton Sweepstakes update. You can say I'm seeing nothing, I'm seeing a rainbow where it's just clear sky. But I don't know. You tell me if rushing over to your friend's manor in the pouring rain because you think she's going to pet you, when you already know that a video game called Cat Petters exists. You tell me if that's just a sign of a really good friend. I do hope that she is a main player in the long run. But most likely, a lot of the support and help Noelle is going to get when dealing with the loss of Des and her most likely being the angel, is going to go to Birdley, Chris, and especially Susie for the end of the game's main story. Now, the weird route, that's a whole other possibility there. Meanwhile, Jockington, I think, is interesting if he becomes a party member. Of all the new additions we've had to the Deltarune Lightners cast, I think he's the most closest to feeling like he'd also fit right in original Undertale. Like, you plop this guy down in 2015 writing Undertale, and he would have been behind Sans as the most popular character for, like, comics, Tumblr jokes, confession blogs, that sort of thing. At least with Birdley in Chapter 1, he had a few lines that showed that while he was a smug, nerdy teen, it wasn't like he was malicious or cruel, or like he was just your typical nerd who was kind of full of himself but clearly had somewhat of a good heart. But with Jockington, it's so straightforward in the type of character that he is, of just being sports obsessed, and also hometown is obsessed with him. Maybe we'll see him get more fleshed out in Chapter 4, or maybe he'll be more of a comic relief side piece while Caddy gets the focus. It just, I cannot see him getting more emotions than the one talk sprite we have seen him with the whole time in Chapter 1 and 2. I also think Chapter 4 is when we're going to see the Knight in full glory, and probably get our first big hints that aren't from secret bosses at what Gaster looks like and what his deal is in this universe. When it comes to, like, the Knight, I don't have any big stakes on who the candidates could be, simply because going off of Chapter 1 and 2, it's vague enough where I can't give a concrete guess or answer on who it could be. A lot of the options that I've seen become more popular, like Des, Alvin, or even, Mayor Holiday, very much depend to me on if we see these guys and get to know them more in Chapters 3 and 4. Because, they work as great twist reveals, but I feel like the Knight's identity and what their goals are things that Toby is going to be hinting at and getting us to guess at until the final reveal. Papyrus as the Knight is a very fun idea, and we've gotten some great art, music, and designs of him as the Knight. But I think that making an Undertale character who is, I think, very much implied to only show up, like, at the very end, him being the Knight and being this big twist, like, that worked for a shocker in that moment. But I think in a storytelling perspective of, you want to make them all fleshed out characters, it's not as good to me. Unless they gave him, like, a full chapter's worth of dialogue and exposition, though it must be much better to meet him ourselves and learn more about him. And then when we see him as the Knight, it's like, oh yeah, that connects. Chapter 4 in general is very much seeming to be the odd one out compared to what we've seen of the other chapters. The border that we got from the Switch screenshot preview and the images of the church we have on the Deltarune Countdown website itself, they fascinate me. This dark, tall, looming church that seems almost hollow and empty. And the clips that we saw in the teaser of Chris and Susie being different colors and running through pure darkness, and the enemies being like weird spirit enemies. I am so excited for that, because I love Toby's writing the most when it is more serious or horror or off-putting. There's also the matter of hopefully us getting to see who or what Mike is. Mike's an interesting case because, he only got a few mentions, like I think 3 in general, by Spamton in Chapter 2 properly. But then during the Spamton Sweepstakes, he came up a bit more, and it was like that whole thing was kind of to tell us that Mike and Tenna are two separate people. What's funny is the thing that we now associate with Mike instead of the TV head, image_friend, there's also a chance that's not Mike at all and is a totally different entity. Who knows at this point? I am very interested to see what image_friend is, regardless of if it's Mike or it's a different character altogether, because it appeared in the mansion basement first, watching us. At first, a lot of people thought that was Spamton following us and making sure we were getting closer to the Neo body, or for some reason I saw some people bring up that it might have been a hallucination, but I don't think I've ever seen hallucinations in Chapter 1 or Chapter 2. And for Spamton, the way the story is set up, that literally makes no sense, because he needs us to get to the mansion basement for him. He can't go in himself. And even in the snow grave route, I think he only got into the mansion basement so easily because we froze all of Cyber City, so he just kind of waltzed in without much worry. So the idea that there's this other party, this other being that's watching us, following us, and making sure that we get close to like the Neo body and giving Spamton what he wants. I dig that. I like the idea of there being other parties that we don't know about just off screen watching. You know, kind of like the Hell Valley Skag Trees in Mario Galaxy. We don't know what it is. You know, it'd be interesting. It could be a main boss, or, you know, it could be a secret boss because it ties directly to Spamton and the Spamton Sweepstakes. And while that was more of a lore dump and setup for Noel's character, it is interesting seeing like Noel directly connected to Spamton, and I'm going to guess also this thing from the latest update and the Cat Petters minigame we had on the website. Speaking of secret bosses, I can't believe that Woody Theory and Friend Inside Me still has some form of logic and standing behind it. I honestly thought it'd be one of those things where proof of it would be shot down quickly, kind of like how just recently Toby deconfirmed the theory that Penumbra Phantasm, or however it's called, from Homestuck, was going to be reused as a boss theme by saying he wasn't going to use boss themes or just music from Homestuck in general in Deltarune. Megalovania is different because that's just a song he made for a game of his own originally, so that's just his song. I honestly thought the Friend Inside Me would have been shot out back by now.
The phone's... Man, I am not a kid!
What can you say about... He was...
The secret bosses, and predicting those in general, are kind of harder to do, because kind of like with Chapter 2 speculation following Chapter 1, we don't have a lot to go off of, or like how patterns are established. Like, will the next one change our heart too, or was that just a Spamton thing? With predicting the Chapter 2 secret boss, we, for some reason, thought that all the Dark Worlds were going to follow the theming of the same one in Chapter 1, only with slightly differences. So a lot of times people thought the second secret boss would be another Jevil type, because usually a card deck has 2 Joker cards. I do think we are getting something cowboy related in the TV world, but it's just as likely that it could be for a normal boss or a minigame. The webpage that shows Cowboy Chris and the Susie sprites mentions 2 minutes of mildly entertaining shootout action. We could just as easily get, you know, a shooting gallery minigame or have a shooting themed main boss fight. Regardless, I am very thankful for Woody Theory. It's made these last few years so wild and fun, and we've gotten so much from it, like art and fan-wise. Fan animations, music tracks, a full-on Spamton boss replacement mod for the actual Chapter 2, and seeing how people design what a cowboy boss would look like is fun, because there are some on one end that are just Woody, but, you know, with the name etched off, and others that are just, okay, cowboy, but we're making anything into a cowboy. I think my personal favorite has to be Pedally, because it's this weird bootleg Flowey, while also not being Flowey, and the Tenna design that goes with that design is so good to me. I love all the Mafia prediction stuff we've been doing. Also, not to brag or anything, but the idea of Chapter 3's secret boss being a cancelled and forgotten cowboy show came to me like long before Friend Inside Me was a thing. But also, it's just one of those things where if you think about how, okay, it's TV world, so the secret boss is going to be TV themed, cowboy shows, the one genre of TV show that's, I feel like, has been utterly forgotten by time and cannot come back compared to like sci-fi or even crime and noir shows. It just kind of makes sense. It's just that my idea for it would be a girl, just because we need variety. But again, it could be anything. It could be the busty dragon girl that Asriel drew on the How to Draw Dragons book. Who knows? Along with the excitement for, the main story of 3 and 4, I am very excited to see what is next for the Weird Root. The Weird Root to me has some of Toby's best character moments and writing, just because it is this very oppressive and kind of unflinching narrative of we are ruining the story. We are taking things off track. And I love that so much. This secret story mode hidden away by doing a bunch of weird steps that you'd see like on an Angel Fire website in 2006. That is great. And the hints we've gotten about Snowgrave and the future chapters have me very excited. Because Toby, he doesn't talk about the Snowgrave Weird Root in interviews or anything the same way he wouldn't talk about, like, Gaster in Undertale interviews, because clearly those are important and have meaning for the future, so why spoil that stuff now? So the hints we've gotten from the Spamton Sweepstakes update about how Chapter 3 has a Weird Root that's hidden away but is still the size of the one we saw in Chapter 2, that has me very, very excited. And also, I am so curious to know what those thank you emails we got are going to lead to. These playthroughs are going to be me doing my absolute best at trying to get everything I can find. Will I miss things? Most likely. Deltarune is a game where tons of easily missable interactive objects or Easter eggs brought on by backtracking or going through areas again and again. Hopefully, though, the secret boss won't be missed, as those seem to be as an important focus story-wise. I think the only thing I'll probably miss, most likely, is the egg, and that might just be because I'm so caught up in other events of the story going on that I'm not going to notice where the music track seemingly starts over at random. But then again, Chapter 2's egg room was heavily hinted at, and part of an entirely different secret room that can be found by basic exploration, so who knows on that end, right? My biggest warning for this is that I'm going to voice the character's dialogue. I do that a lot of times when I'm just playing on my own anyways, but I'm not a voice actor. Voices are likely not going to be consistent at all. I apologize in advance for like my Susie and my Lancer switching speaking styles and accents every 5 minutes. You want to see a trans woman that's good at voice acting play this? Wait for the Snapcube VODs or watch her stream live. You came here because you're just looking for some good, raw, let's play goodness, and I honestly just hope to deliver. With that, that should be everything. If all goes well, you should see this video on the eve of Chapter 3 and 4's release, so that we can finally say Deltarune tomorrow and make it true. It's been 4 long years, but the wait is finally over. I'll see you tomorrow for Deltarune Chapter 3 and Chapter 4.
Kill your PB, 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 kill your PB.